Again, Lisa, it's wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Joe, for having me here today.
You bet.
Wonderful
So
to be here.
it is great. So let me ask you first and foremost, 6 years ago, this pandemic was changing the world, changing our lives. How did you get through that era, and how has it changed the way that you work and live today?
Right. Such a great question because it did change. It changed everything for me. So I had kids in high school and college, and so I had to first help them sort of get settled what they were going to do, where were they going to, were they staying at home? uh, that was quite stressful. So to go from in school and all your friends and seeing them all the time to now you're at home with mom and dad, that was a really big change for everybody. So we had that piece. And then I had to figure out, I was seeing 99% of my clients in my office, and I had such a great office. I loved it. But now what am I going to do? And so it became this like all the therapists are going online and how are we going to do it? And there was like all these different platforms. And I was like, I like Zoom. It's just so simple and so easy. So I had recently started seeing a couple clients. They would fly in internationally to see me. And when they would go home, how would I follow up with them? So I started, having conversations that way with them. So it wasn't so like, oh my gosh, I felt a little prepared, but not so much. So I took my whole business online and had to change not only, seeing people in person and there's a different, feel when, they're a few inches away from me versus now they're on a screen. Are they comfortable using a screen? Do they know how to get on Zoom? Right? Like I'd always be like, please get on 15 minutes in advance and make sure the sound is on, the camera's on. So it was a big adjustment for everybody. And my husband actually worked at University of Maryland in the ICU. So that was stressful
Yeah.
because he's coming home working every day with COVID patients, and the stories and the pain, that was
Mm.
really difficult. So we heard a lot of just, what was it like not just listening on, to the television and listening to the radio of like what's happening with COVID, but really what was happening in the hospital. So, and then I had clients who would come in, in on Zoom and be talking to me about this. Member went to the hospital or we're pregnant and how are we going to go to the hospital? They're only letting one of us in. And boy, oh boy, there was so much that it impacted every area of our lives,
For
every
sure.
area.
So let's get into the work that you're doing with couples right now. And to do that, I'm
Yeah.
going to put you in front of 12-year-olds at career day. And one of the kids wants to know what you do for a living. How do you synthesize your day job to make sense to their brains?
A 12-year-old. So I actually, at 12, decided I wanted to become a therapist.
Okay.
So what I had to do was the teachers asked us, we want you at that point was go to the library. At that point, this point, we don't have libraries, we just go on the computer.
Yes.
But we had to narrow down some career and then research it and write a paper, like an essay about why we'd want to become this thing. So I chose a therapist, a counselor. I didn't choose couples. I chose individual therapy at that point, and that's actually what I wound up doing for many years before I became the couples counselor. But what I wrote about was that I liked helping people, and I would probably tell the 12-year-olds that if you like talking to people and helping them, um, and uh, like if you're a good listener, you have to be a really good listener and be able to um, be, how would I say this in 12-year-old language? Um, Not think about like really myself, but put myself in somebody else's shoes, which is really hard for a 12-year-old. I might try to think of an example of like, you remember when your friend came to you and said, you know, my brother, stole, my favorite dolls and, ran away and hid them. Um, you know, uh, trying to help them understand like how would they, you know, talk with, their sibling and how would they work together to resolve the issue. It's not just run in, grab your doll and run away, right?
Yeah.
But how would they, maybe say to them like, that hurt my feelings or I'm feeling sad. Um, and then, how do you ask for the doll back? So I would really try to break it down into um, a level that they could understand. But really, that's what I'm doing every day is helping couples slow down the conversation and be able to hear each other's sides. You both have different feelings on it. You both have different experiences. Nobody's right and nobody's wrong. I won't talk about 12-year-olds with siblings. So that might
Yeah.
be a little bit of a different conversation, but usually with couples, think people frequently don't do things intentionally to hurt their partner, but they might say something or do something. And how do we, really be able to try to understand our partner and help them understand how I'm feeling and what I'm experiencing? So it
That makes
definitely,
sense.
yeah.
So, where were you born and raised? Are you from Maryland originally?
No, no, no. So I was born in New York,
Okay.
and after my mom was divorced and then remarried, we moved to Connecticut. So we went from city girl because I was in Queens to the country, literally the country. We had 3 acres for just our yard, but then we backed up to an entire forest, and
Wow.
that's where we like you know climbed trees and had a lot of fun. But then when I went to college, I went to Washington, D.C., and I went to American University. And I loved the D.C. Just getting out, walking around. You could walk to the museums. I mean, the public transportation now, okay, I'm dating myself a little bit. It's over 30 years ago. I haven't taken it recently, but many years ago when I did take it, it was still very easy. You hop on the train, you hop off
Yep.
the train, you get to where you want to be. And I just loved being able to explore the museums and all the different culture in the DC area. So when after I got married and it was like, okay, where are we going to live? I definitely wanted to come back. I had moved out actually in grad school. I went to North Carolina, but I actually wound up coming back to that like Maryland area. It was very enjoyable, and I had some friends that were still in the area, so it was very positive.
So
Yeah,
you knew early on you wanted to be in therapy. What was it early on in your life? What were the seeds that were planted that
yeah,
evolved to that point where you knew that was going to be your destiny?
right. So. Uh, the short story is that there was several marriages and divorces for my mom and my dad. And based on that, that actually what made me interested in therapy because I had some therapy as a child because of all the marriages and divorces and the conflict that I saw. But it also made me think to myself, I really want to be able to help people have relationships that are healthy. So first I had to learn what was healthy for myself and then be able to help individuals. And that's where I first moved into actually work in trauma and things like abuse. I wanted to help children that they shouldn't, they should have hope and know that not everybody in their life is abusive and really felt inspired to work with children first. And then I started within working with the adults because I really felt like they needed to know how to have a healthy self-esteem and healthy relationships so then they could, be able to work more easily with their children. And then I pivoted into, well, let me work with the couple because as much as I can work with the child and the individual, if I can start with the couple and the partnership and help them have healthy, successful relationships and improve their communication and improve their conflict and so forth, then I could really have it trickle down to the children.
Sure.
So that's how I
So,
see
who's been your kind of inspirational
it.
force, muse, hero that's allowed you
Mm.
to become who you are today?
Mm. Wow. Hero. So, hmm, that's a really good question.
Hmm.
So I think I in my work as a couples therapist, I became very close to Dr. Tatkin and his wife. And they are a wonderful team together. Dr. Stan and Tracy Tatkin. And to watch them work together as a partnership, and this is one of the programs that I became certified as a couples therapist, other than I'm also certified as a Gottman, but I got much closer to the Dr. Tatkin and his wife. And just to be able to really see them in that beautiful partnership and really how does couples and even though I had been working with couples, I didn't really have a lot of experience with couples and partners who really had healthy relationships and being able not only to train with them about how do you work with couples but also to see them so beautifully be able to work together. um, and I'm very thankful that we still have a very close relationship and we speak very, very often. And they were definitely one of my many mentors as I grew in my work with couples. Yeah.
So, in the world of art and entertainment,
Mm.
we're assailed by all these love stories. I mean, you got Romeo and Juliet, you got all these movies, you got all these
Yeah.
examples of couples and
Mhm.
relationships. What is your
Mhm.
favorite
Mm.
couple, your favorite love story?
Ah, favorite love story. So actually, when you asked me about one of my heroes, uh, I am a very religious person, and I was actually going to say one of my other heroes was a rabbi who really actually probably was one of the first individuals that showed me a very beautiful relationship, Rabbi Singer. And I really wanted to have a marriage like I saw he and his wife had. And so I'm actually going to go to a Bible story and say that because I really don't watch a lot of movies and read like n romance novels and things like that. I just I'm very busy with my work. So but because I study and do a lot of work reading the Bible, that I would say we have a lot of beautiful relationships, whether it was Sarah or Abraham or we have a number of different, well, I'll start with them. That's one of the early stories. And one of the key components of their relationship was kindness and always having an open home. And to me, that really exemplifies the kind of home that I have, where being kind to my partner is very, very important to us and to really both of us. And to have an open home, our children always knew that everybody was welcome. We always had guests and really wanted to model, the ability to show love, express love, um, in a way that feels nurturing, that feels caring, that feels sincere and authentic. That's really what I learned from their story.
So, being in the world of helping couples
Mm.
and therapeutically helping them get to
Hmm.
another place means you got to get into
Yeah.
some murky stuff. Human beings just have a lot of drama that goes into it. So how do
Mhm.
you stay grounded? How do you do your job at a high level? Take care
Mhm.
of your family, your soul, everything every day that you have to do. How do you do all that at a high level? What's the energy?
Right. So I actually simultaneously, as I was being an individual therapist, I ran actually also a personal training and fitness business at the same time. And I was doing both things. So for me, exercise and fitness is vital. I need to be able to move and um, get out energy and stress and things like that. So that's one way. And then I actually just I'm almost, actually not just, but almost certified in what's called breath work. And for many people, they know what that is, but I'll try to broaden it to the field of mindfulness and meditation, and basically using our nervous system, right, our breath to calm, relax, center, ground ourself. And what I find, and one reason that decided to become trained in this area, is that so often we try to have conversations, we try to communicate with our partner. But if we're dysregulated, if we're screaming and yelling and we can't listen, then it's so hard to have that conversation. Like, how does my partner hear me if I'm screaming? Sometimes people will say to me, "Oh, if I just say it louder." I'm like, your partner's listening to you if you scream it? I don't think so. So I'm working on really being trained in this area so then I can share it more with my couples. I actually did a breathwork session in a group earlier today, and everyone said, like, I just feel so much lighter, so much freer, so much more open. And so when we come into a conversation with a partner, um, it just will probably go much more easily and more productively and more effectively. And so I use it individually and plan on sharing it more with couples so they can practice it so they can have better conversations.
For sure. So let me ask you this. You obviously knew early on what you wanted to do as a profession, but all of it is your own unique journey. So let's
Yeah.
say you have a dream tonight. You run into that 18-year-old version of you. You walk into the room and there's a film projector. You click play and a 60-second highlight reel of this life you've lived, the choices you've made come up. Would that young version of you believe your life turned out this way?
No, no. I mean, I think being a therapist, yes, but there's many choices along the way that I didn't even think about, I wasn't aware of, I didn't know was even available to me. But the more that I grew and the more that I felt confident in myself, then I was able to try new things like this breath work. Like, um, I'm not 20 anymore. And, to start um, at an older age, getting into this new field and bringing it into my work, many people would be like, "Oh, I'm too old," like I don't, like I went to school when I was in my 20s, maybe my 30s, but like we don't do this at this age. And I'm like, you know what? I hope to continue
Yeah.
to learn, grow, do new things until I'm 120. So I wouldn't have ever imagined all the beautiful blessings that I have in my life right now. Mm-mm.
So what are you the proudest of, professionally speaking? What are you the
Okay.
happiest about?
Professionally. Professionally, I am very thankful that I have uh, uh, my own practice.
Yeah.
My husband actually is joining me in my practice next month. So that's very, very exciting. He is a psychiatric nurse practitioner. And so many of my couples, one partner needs anxiety, depression. I do a lot of work with neurodiversity, needs ADHD medication and so forth. So he'll be able to help provide that. He's also an individual therapist, so he's going to be doing some work there. But if you don't mind, I'm going to quickly show. I
Sure.
have a book
Yes.
and I'm working on the second edition of Why Won't You Stop Interrupting Me? And the I narrated, the audiobook is coming out literally any day. So all of those things are exciting, and really there's so many more things coming up. So it's just every day, I'm very blessed with a wonderful team that supports me, and we have an ADHD course coming out. There's just so many things. It's, you know, just continuing to grow.
So I was going to get into your book. Talk to me a little bit
Yeah.
about the idea
Mm,
behind writing the book and
mm,
how good it's felt to get that out into the
mm.
world.
Yeah, it's definitely been a vision for, since I was really in college, because the book is laid out in a way that each room of your house, you are working on a certain area of the marriage, on the relationship. And that's actually from a mnemonic that I learned back in college of, when you're trying to learn something, if you can associate it with a room. so the kitchen is we work on this area, but in the living room, we work on that area, that you'll be more likely to pair. It's pairing. You're able to remember something more easily because like you're always in the kitchen,
Yeah.
right? And so how hard is it to remember what you're working on?
Yeah.
And I also tried to pair up the letters. So for instance, K, I mentioned kindness earlier. In the kitchen, we work on kindness. So anyhow, that's just a little piece there. But it really came about because I was working with so many ADHD in couples, and um, they would tell me, I'm reading this book, but it's so long. I can't even get through like 10 pages. Or I'm reading that book and it's just too complicated. And I thought, okay, I'm going to take all the feedback from all my couples of what they don't like about their books that they're reading, and write a book that it's very simple. And that's actually one of the things I comment on is that it looks so simple, but if you really work each piece of it, it's very comprehensive because you're working on learning something and it's really a small, tiny idea. It's not like 50 pages. It's like a small idea. And then I give you things to try around that idea and practice and questions to ask each other and a story that gives you an example of how a couple use that idea. Have you, doing what's the takeaway? What are you going to work on this week? And so I really want to make it real. Not like, let's just read something. And yeah, we've all read things. Or like I said, the reason I did the audiobook was so many people said, Lisa, I love your voice, but I'm not reading your book. I was like, okay, you have ADHD. I get it. It's really hard. Some of my couples are very like, I'm going to read it. And they'll hyper focus. They read it over one weekend. I said, good, read it back, go back and read chapter one again.
Yeah.
But I know that it's so much easier for some individuals just to listen in the car or listen while they're doing whatever. So I narrated it. We won't talk about that. It's a really long story.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me ask you this. Everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone that you work with, everyone that gets your book, and all these different bubbles. But you're the one that ultimately drives what we see. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Mm. I am someone who wants to strive, grow, thrive, and be better every day.
So if anyone's ready for the next step, they will have questions, they want to have some couples therapy, they want to probe, they want to get in here and find out. Where's the best place for them to go and to also get a book as well?
Sure. So the best way to reach me would be on counselorforcouples.com, counselorforcouples.com. My book is there. Why won't you stop interrupting me? Or they can go to Amazon and, in the book section, they can find the book also.
Okay. I will put these links in the show notes.
Thank you.
Lisa, thank you for your story. Thank you for taking a
Oh,
minute out, and best of luck with the next book and with
thank
all
you.
the good work you're doing. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much for your time.
You bet.